Hello ladies and gentlemen, GamingMedley here, and today I'm going to be giving you all a quick recap of the lore of the Fallout series because if you live in North America like me, as well as in many other parts of the world, you're still waiting to get your hands on Fallout 4 since the game's release is region locked, which means now is prime time for a clickbait video like this. I'm expecting at least 10 views. So even though Fallout's lore is rather convoluted, just like the story behind most Bethesda open world games, it does have a fairly rich backstory. In this game, I'll be going over the lore of the Fallout universe, recapping the events of past Fallout games, and taking a look at some of the game's more prominent factions and characters and things. This video is going to be relatively quick and dirty as far as lore goes, so if I left out something that you think is the greatest part of the game, don't bitch at me, leave it down in the comments so other people can see it, and then they'll know about it and we can all talk about it. So as many of you know, the Fallout games take place in an alternate future. Well, kind of. The basic premise is this: what if technology never miniaturized, so atomic energy became the default power source? In the Fallout universe, everything is parallel to our reality until the detonation of the nuclear bombs Little Boy and Fat Man on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan during World War II. This event ended World War II, and it's at this critical point in time that the Fallout universe diverges from our own. Instead of advancing, technology stagnates, with room-sized computers being prevalent well into the 21st century, and atomic energy and oil acting as the world's greatest power sources. The US coagulates the 50 states into 13 larger subdivisions called Commonwealths in 1969. They are as follows: the Columbia Commonwealth, East Central Commonwealth, Eastern Commonwealth, Four States Commonwealth, Gulf Commonwealth, Great Midwest Commonwealth, New England Commonwealth, Northern Commonwealth, Northwest Commonwealth, Plains Commonwealth, Southeast Commonwealth, Southwest Commonwealth, Texas Commonwealth, and Canada. If you're thinking, hold on, Canada? We'll get to that in a second. Right now, let's talk about how a private contractor by the name of WestTech starts looking into weaponry and medical advancements, and in 2004, Robert House, a technological genius who would later go on to develop the Pip-Boy, is born. Fast forward to 2052, resources are running out and Europe invades the Middle East in an attempt to gain access to its vast oil stores. The UN is disbanded and the city of Tel Aviv, Israel is hit with an atomic bomb which escalates into a small-scale nuclear war between Europe and the Middle East. Eventually, the Middle East runs dry. In 1966, China invades Alaska for its oil, and in 1967, the US deploys the now iconic power armor to wipe out that invasion. The US forcibly annexes Canada into a Commonwealth in 2072. In 2073, the Enclave, a group of US government officials, take control of oil fields in the Pacific Ocean, which they then fortify in the hope that it will become a stronghold after the inevitable nuclear holocaust they see looming on the horizon comes to fruition. In 2077, Alaska is reclaimed, and a soldier by the name of Captain Maxon discovers West Tech scientists using an experimental virus called the FEV, or the Forced Evolutionary Virus, on people, mutating them in strange and unpredictable ways. Maxon executes the scientists, and on October 20th, 2077, he and his men desert the army. Maxon and his regiment would later form the Brotherhood of Steel, a faction that anybody who's played the games should know pretty well. If you haven't played the games, the Brotherhood of Steel is comprised of power armor-wearing soldiers that use a pseudo-religious hierarchical system to rule themselves. In short, they're badasses in big armor who you probably don't want to piss off if you can help it. In 2074, the US had invaded China, and after pushing back the Alaska offensive, the US is in a prime position to end the war. However, on October 23rd, 2077, the Great War occurs. Nobody knows just who instigated it, although a popular theory is that the Chinese decided to launch their nuclear warheads once they were sure they would lose the war, determined to take out everybody else with them. Regardless, over a period of a few hours, every international power launches their nuclear warheads and the world burns. However, as only main cities are targeted for the most part, large parts of the world are not obliterated, instead being slowly corrupted and mutated by the radiation, leading to many of the more monstrous creatures you encounter while wandering the Fallout game's expanses. Here's where the vaults come in. As we've already established, the US predicted the nuclear war, and so they contracted VaultTech, who worked with Robert House and his company Robco, to build vaults that would keep humanity safe. 122 of them, to be precise, each of which could hold up to 1,000 residents. However, someone somewhere said, hey, What if we use some of them as experiments, which apparently lots of people in Vault-Tec, Robco, and the US government thought would be a great idea. These experiments ranged from pumping hallucinogenic drugs into vaults to straight up infecting their inhabitants with mutagenic formulas and radiation, explaining many of the stranger and more infamous vaults in the series. If you want to know about those vaults, I'll link a few videos from all number of channels in the description that do a nice job of running through some of the more insane vaults you can come across in the various commonwealths. However, many vaults were left well enough alone, and in Fallout, Fallout 3, and Fallout 4 you play as characters who were put in largely non-experimental vaults. Every vault has an overseer, someone who is typically aware of the largely experimental nature of the vault, and who is regarded as anything from a mayor to a god in terms of status depending on the vault in question. So now that we've looked into Fallout's history, let's quickly summarize the franchise's core games. In the original Fallout, you play as the Vault Dweller, a character who is sent on a mission by their Vault Overseer to recover a water purification chip lest the whole vault dehydrate and die. Along their way, the Vault Dweller runs into a variety of individuals and does video gamey things, like get water caravans that extend the amount of time they have to find their water purifier, but the most important things the Vault Dweller does are encounter ghouls and super mutants who we'll talk more about later, and eventually find and deliver a new water purification device back to the vault. However, upon learning that the Vault Dweller encountered super mutants, the Vault Overseer tasks them with destroying the source of these mutations. The Vault Dweller and the Brotherhood of Steel band together to take out a life-absorbing sentient blob called the Master that was responsible for mutating humans into super mutants using the aforementioned forced evolutionary virus. And after the Vault Dweller takes him out, they return to the vault, only to have the Overseer inform them that they know too much, and they are then exiled. Fallout 2 picks up where this game left off by putting you in the shoes of the Chosen One, the original Vault Dweller's granddaughter/grandson, and tasks you with finding a GECK or GECK or a Garden of Eden creation kit, a device that can recreate hospitable territory even out of an irradiated wasteland. The Chosen One finds a GECK, but of course when they return to their village Arroyo, they find that its inhabitants have been captured by the Enclave, the group of US government people that we talked about earlier. The Chosen One then finds out that the Enclave is using the villagers as control subjects to try and recreate an anti-FEV that will wipe out all mutations. So the Chosen One destroys their base, kills the US president, and saves the day. In Fallout 3, you chase after your father as you attempt to cleanse the capital wasteland's water supply, therefore making the land hospitable for everyone. Your father and you are reunited after a rather famous simulation in which you're told by a man masquerading as a little girl in a dream world to kill everyone, a suggestion which you can either ignore or go through with, and then your good old dad promptly sacrifices himself to make sure you live in true video game fashion. You then have to find a GECK to complete the device that you need to cleanse the water. However, you're captured by the Enclave, and then of course you have to fight your way to the president, who encourages you to kill all mutants with the same FEV from the first game. If you're thinking that sounds like a good plan, keep in mind that pretty much everyone has been mutated, and doing so would be a death sentence for virtually everyone in the capital wasteland. Yada yada yada, things happen, and you eventually do succeed in purifying the water supply, and or not killing everyone depending on whether or not you like the idea of infecting said purified water with the modified FEV from the Enclave. Fallout New Vegas doesn't contain too many plot points, instead putting you in the shoes of someone known only as the Courier, who lives through being shot in the head because of course they do, and who then has to recover a package from the person who shot them that the Courier is supposed to deliver to one Mr. House, yes, that house, founder of Robco. Ultimately, the whole game is kind of built around influencing who controls the dam in the game, and by extension the Mojave Wasteland and most of the West Coast. And so now, as a last quick aside, there are some factions and things that are iconic to the Fallout universe that you should probably know about. I'm excluding the Brotherhood of Steel and instead just linking their wiki page in the description because they have lots of backstory that would take a while to go over. So let's go over some creatures first. 1. Ghouls. Ghouls might look like zombies, but they're essentially just irradiated humans who are able to live because genetics. Most ghouls still have the same mind they had when they were more fully human, and as such are indistinguishable at a purely cognitive level. However, some ghouls can turn feral, resulting in them losing their sanity and attacking everything around them. Ghouls are a result of a Vault-Tec experiment. 2. Super mutants. Super mutants are either passive or aggressive in nature, depending largely on where they originate. Super mutants from the Mariposa military base that originated under the aforementioned master might be huge, but they're intelligent and reasonable. Super mutants from the capital Wasteland, however, are hostile no matter what. Super mutants grow indefinitely, and the biggest ones, behemoths, can use buses as stools. All super mutants are the result of using the forced evolutionary virus on humans. In addition to that, although those are kind of the two main big enemy slash creature types, you have a variety of mutated creatures such as Deathclaws, which are the big scary things that I'm showing on the screen right now that stab you in the Fallout 4 teaser, and all sorts of things like giant mole rats, roaches, everything that anybody who thinks of an irradiated wasteland would think of. You also, of course, have your typical raiders, which are just humans on the surface who are really fucked up and use fucked up things to try and do fucked up shit to you, and then you fuck them up to get them the fuck out. Fuck. 3. Caps, as in bottle caps, are Fallout's currency. Because. 4. The ever-iconic Pip-Boy provides you with radiation readings, radio stations, and video gamey things like inventory and player stats. It also lets you use the VATS, or Vault Tech Assisted Targeting System, to pinpoint enemies' body parts and blow them up. Because why not? 5. Robco, founded by Robert House, is responsible for beginning the miniaturization of technology by way of the transistor, and is responsible for house robots such as Codsworth. 6. And finally, CIT, as in the Commonwealth Institute of Technology, which you might know as MIT from our reality, became simply known as the Institute after the Great War. This is important because the Institute is probably going to play a large role in the Fallout 4 story from some things we've seen, although I'll leave it at that. All I'll say otherwise is that they're technologically advanced to the point of creating androids that can pass as humans. Alright, so all of that should get you to a place where you can wander the wonderful world of Fallout 4 with some semblance of an idea about what's going on. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to like, sub, and share before I set my super mutants on you. GM, out.